Just to get us in the mood, a little guilty pleasure here from back in the day.
Those schoolgirl days of telling tales and biting nails are gone.
Meg?
Yeah.
These kids are a special breed.
Joseph.
Yeah.
Dare.
Yeah.
Young and wild.
Potter.
Not quite adults.
Potter.
Yeah. They're as in as Carnaby Street, as hard as the streets of London. As touching as a 16-year-old who knows all the answers.
You're not in trouble, are you?
No, sir. Well, nowadays that's only for fools, isn't it? If you wanted the sky, I would ride across the sky in letters that would soar 1,000 feet high to serve with love.
Okay. So that is a bit how we felt. And when we walked into Palm Springs High School. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and Mimi's going to get set up. But I just wanted to show you how different it is to work with high school students compared to the junior high school students that we were used to working with. Because PS ModCom's education committee has been doing a program at St. Teresa Catholic School for 7 years. This was started by our much loved Robert Imber, and we miss him so much. And all of this is dedicated to Robert, everything we're doing now in the future. And so for 7 years at St. Teresa's, we were teaching middle school children who are so enthusiastic and so sweet and so interested in what we're doing. But to expand the program, we really wanted to get into the public schools. So I was lucky enough to be introduced to Ellen Goodman from the foundation, and they are in charge of bringing new programs into the high school that the high school may not have the money or wherewithal to finance. And so through the foundation, PS ModCom Education Committee was introduced to a wonderful art teacher at the high school, Becky Patterson, and she was interested in implementing our program. So we thought, what a great way to get to 15-year-olds who haven't attended St. Teresa School and haven't seen our program. Let's get them before they get out of high school, before it's too late. And when I'm saying let's get them, I mean, we want to brainwash them. We want to teach them about desert modernism and what's so wonderful about it and why we want to preserve it. But we want to teach them about that in a way that they don't realize that they are learning about preservation. They just realize that they're learning to have pride in their community and what great buildings we have here in Palm Springs. So in March of 2020, before the pandemic, we started the program in person at Palm Springs High School. And we walked in, Robert Imber was with us. We started giving our initial lectures just like we did at St. Teresa's. And lo and behold, we found out high school students are not required to be paying attention or disciplined. High school students in the art department are allowed to do whatever they want to do. They are allowed to text each other. They are allowed to be looking at their phones. They're actually allowed to put their heads down on their desk and sleep during the class. So we were pretty shocked by this, but we're trying to roll with it, you know, and figure out how to work it. And so we tried different things in person. They weren't working. You know, fortunately, I had recruited Mimi Fisher to join the committee, and she was with us. She, being a very, very creative person, was concerned about what was happening just as much as I was, and the two of us were talking about it constantly. And then all of a sudden, COVID shut us down. So we never got to finish the program. And it was actually probably a good thing because we learned what we needed to do, and we were able to spend the summer reworking the program in a way to make it so interesting, so attention getting, and so fun for the kids that they couldn't possibly ignore it. So Mimi's idea was to do, a PowerPoint that was creative and fun looking, in which we're going to show you now. And fortunately, we presented it 2 times so far. We presented it in February of this year, and we presented right now, we're doing it in May of this year. And Becky Patterson, the teacher, loves the program. The whole school is loving it. They see the potential, and we've been offered to come back again next season. So we're excited. So our goal was to teach an appreciation of desert modern architecture and design to high school students. We wanted to instill pride and value of preservation. The challenge was how to communicate to teenagers who don't think they are interested in architecture. As we mentioned, the students are not required to pay attention, so we had to grab their attention. We are also doing this through Zoom, not live, which is an added challenge. As many of the teachers in the school have related, it's very, very hard to keep the students interested over Zoom. So our solution was to create a visually fun and communicative PowerPoint teaching tool. And you're going to see some of that coming up very soon. Are you stuck, Mimi? There it is.
I was for a second.
Okay. We're also going to create enthusiasm for understanding, improving, and preserving the built environment. And challenge the students to design and build a scale model of a house that demonstrates the characteristics of desert modern architecture. So differing from the St. Teresa's program, where they build a model of a local building, this time they're going to design their own house. So that's even more creative and more of a challenge. In our solution, we decided to have 2 to 3 teachers at a time, members of the PS ModCom Education Committee, presenting a fun discussion rather than a lecture, more like we're going to do right now. Create enthusiasm about good design, mid-century modern, and desert modernism that is contagious. So something we do is we keep it very informal, and we kind of act like it's a fun party that we're having every day. And it's a 16-day program over 4 weeks to 15 sophomore art students with Zoom presentations. Those are the days of the week we did it, and 50 minutes per class. 3 to 4 students are in person in the class right now in our second part of the program, because it is, the school is now rotating students through. The remainder are on Zoom. So it is an extra challenge now to do it knowing in person, we're being beamed into the classroom on a big screen, and then the other students are watching at home. So this is days 1 through 3, the introduction to architecture. That was the key piece to this presentation, to the teaching. This was so important, and this is what Mimi and I spent our whole summer working on last year. During the pandemic, while we were shut in, we were Zooming with each other and writing and creating all this based on what Robert Imber had created to begin with. We took his presentation and we morphed it into a new and exciting presentation. And then we showed, after those first 3 days, we were able to get from Modernism Week a car tour video of Palm Springs architecture. And that was fantastic, because we would sure love to take them all on the double-decker bus tour, but that wasn't happening because of the pandemic. So we got this video and we showed it over 2 days. And what we learned was to kind of stop the video every 10 minutes or so and have comments and discussion. That way nobody could sleep through it or sneak off. And it worked really well. So day 6, our master model builder, David Webb, who is incredible, live on Zoom came to us from Australia to teach his class in building models. And these are scale models of buildings made out of cardboard. And the students were instructed to collect materials from around their homes to build their models. So cereal boxes, Amazon boxes, whatever they could find around the house, plastic food containers, any of that. Then the 7th day, Mimi gave a model building PowerPoint where she showed, this is Mimi's model that she built. So the teachers, we all built models so that we could relate to what the students were going to be doing. And then we showed photos of the model that I built with my husband, and that was a 50-minute class that day. So we're showing how to build a model, different ways of doing it from different people. Then on day 8, we did a PowerPoint on international architecture, showing some of the buildings that have actually influenced buildings in Palm Springs, like this building in Brazil had perhaps influenced the Chase Bank building. And then students start working on their models in remaining class time at this point. We will give short presentations at the beginning of each day on different subjects. So we'll just zip through this pretty quickly here and talk about shipping container buildings. And then we would give the students time to work on their sketches and models. And at this point, they were simply sketching. Nobody had built anything yet. But we're kind of catching up to where we are now with the class. We did breeze blocks as a presentation. Today we did, the student teacher showed his model, and we did breakout rooms to see the progress and give individual help to the students. So this is exactly where we're at right now. And then tomorrow we'll be doing our landscape architecture presentation, showing them about that and giving them more time to build and construct their models. So as we continue through, we're just giving you the scope of, what each day was like and how we managed to cover all this in the days that we had. We did a presentation on careers relating to architecture. We listed 20 different careers they could go into besides becoming an architect. And we want to show them some career paths. And then the students, have a way of thinking about, gee, if they go into real estate or if they go into construction, it all relates to what they're learning here. And then the last 2 days of the class, we have a show and tell period where the students show their finished models, which was so exciting. Yay! We gave them lots of applause and lots of kudos for what they did. And we, oohed and ahed over each one, and they were all fabulous. And I'll tell you, it was like Christmas for us because we had no idea what they were building or if they were building, because these students would not show themselves on their cameras. It's not like here where you can see everyone. We would be staring at little blank squares, and rarely would they turn their cameras on and hold their drawing up or hold their model up to the camera. Many of them don't have good internet at home. So it was a challenge, but it was so exciting because all the students built models and they were all great in different ways. So I'm going to turn it over to Mimi now, and we're going to take you through quickly the 3-section, the core of the program, the PowerPoint that we developed that really turned Robert Imber's, sketch of an idea of a program into a formal curriculum now that we can present at any school.
So here we go with section 1. We first talked a little bit about what PS ModCom does and what the education committee does, and explained that that's why they're there. We're here in their classroom, and we are teaching them about Palm Springs architecture. And we started first, before we got into teaching them about architecture, we talked about the assignment that they're going to have. Their assignment was to design and build an architectural model. This happens to be a model that David Webb did of the Idris House by E. Stewart Williams. And we think he designed it for the E. Stewart Williams exhibit that was at the Architecture and Design Museum a couple of years ago. And we gave each student this exact floor plan right here. And that's what they're to use to build their model. And you can see it has no windows or doors. So that's where they could get creative and decide where to put those and how to put a roof on and how to landscape, etc. And here is a very nifty animation that Greg Braun did to show the kids how this floor plan lays down flat and the walls go up. They are not required to build interior walls, but he's showing them here. And here we can see how the scale looks with people. Now the rest of the walls. And now we're going to see some different roof types. So we have the flat roof, the shed roof, the gable roof, the butterfly roof, folded plate roof, and the So Fun wave. And one of the students today said she thinks she's going to do a wave. I can't wait to see that. So now we start part one. So what is architecture? And I am going to run through this very quickly, and not nearly as quickly as not as slowly as we do with the kids. We stop and talk about each slide with the kids, but we're just going to really race through it. This first slide is a quote by this Mariam Kamara, and we wanted to show the kids that you can be of color, you can be a woman, you can be young. We start by showing different kinds of houses and talk about how each one is suited to its climate, how an igloo wouldn't work very well in Palm Springs, and how houses relate to their environment and to their culture. The Swiss chalet works because the snow goes up the roof. In Amsterdam, the houses are tall and skinny because it's so crowded, et cetera, et cetera. And then we show how houses can be imaginative. And here we are showing Falling Water by Frank Lloyd Wright. We wanted to introduce the kids to Frank. And of course, this is one of the most famous houses in the world. And related to Falling Water is the Kaufman House in Palm Springs, because both houses had the same owner. And we talk a little bit about the Kaufman House and the famous poolside gossip by Richard Neutra. And then we go on to show that architecture is city halls and how different they can be, built in different eras, totally different styles, and our very own Palm Springs City Hall. And you see the starburst that says sketch it there. We were asked by Becky Patterson, the teacher, to have pauses in our presentation so the kids could stop and sketch or write things down. It just breaks things up a little bit. So here the kids sketched the City Hall while we talked about it. And architecture is concert halls and how different these all are. And we talk a little bit about an architectural program. So the program for each of these was probably very similar. However, the result is just astoundingly different. Highlight that one in Republic of Georgia. And architecture is banks. We're showing a very old Louis Sullivan bank and how different they can be in design, and our own Bank of America. And I love the picture in the upper left of the Roncham Chapel by Le Corbusier, and shows how Rudy Baumfeld was inspired by that. And we talk a little bit about inspiration for architecture. It's not copying, it's getting inspired. And we talk a little bit about renderings. There's a beautiful rendering of the bank. And architecture is houses of worship. Again, all different styles, different eras, but same purpose. And St. Teresa's, which they've all seen. We talk quite a bit about that. Architecture is hotels. Here's two of the fun ones from Palm Springs, both by Cody, but look how different they are. And we talk about that, the organic nature of the Del Marcos versus the horizontality of the Le Horizon. And more hotels, the Orbit Inn and the Tennis Club edition by A. Quincy Jones and Paul Williams. And architecture can be bridges as well. You may recognize the one in the middle by Calatrava. And architecture is fire stations, gas stations, stores, museums. These are all, of course, buildings in Palm Springs that hopefully they're a little familiar with. And here is the Marin County Civic Center. And here's where we stopped and had them sketch it. And it's such a cool looking building. It looks like a flying saucer just landed. And here are all the different kinds of buildings we talked to. And we asked them to write this down. Altogether, they comprise the built environment. And we have them write down the definition of that. And we end the day with talking about preservation. And we think they all know about preserving the natural environment and the big movement there was to save Oswego Canyon, but they probably aren't aware of the fact that we need to preserve our built environment also. That's where we actually spend most of our time. And so we talk about that a little bit and how Captor Plaza got saved. And we always like to end with a little humor at the end of each part. And that is the end of our first day. And now we are going to start the second day with part 2, and I'm going to turn it over to Joan.
Okay, and just a little word about how we collaborated, since so many artists out there. Mimi created all the graphics for this, and her idea was to make it visually stimulating. And you'll notice we have a lot of pictures on angles, which actually drive most of the architecture people crazy. They say you shouldn't have any photos on angles, but I don't know if you noticed, but your head will move to look at those pictures. And this is a way, again, of keeping the students' attention. So we have things spin around, we have things move. We're just trying to do whatever we can do to keep their attention. And before we began part 2, we gave them a pop quiz. So that put them on their toes, kind of trying to remind them, what did you learn yesterday? Trying to remember what you learned. And we made the quiz very simple. So we made it so obvious what the answer was, but this way they will remember and hopefully retain this information. So in part 2, we talk about what is mid-century modern design. And we explain, when it was popular and that it was a philosophy of optimism and simplicity. And then we talk about the main characteristics and ask them to write them down, and always illustrating every point with a visual so that they know exactly what we mean by these phrases. And then talking about the fact that MCM is not only architecture, it's art, home decor and furniture, many other things, landscape design, graphic design, architecture, and even cars. It's fashion design, music, and home goods. So mid-century modern can be lots of things. And then we ask them to sketch one of these. Choose an image. And we talk about the fascination with the future, with mid-century modern and the space program, and show them these. And of course, the kids love anything that looks like a flying saucer or it was from space or Star Wars. They relate to that immediately. And then explaining to them that since Palm Springs was built in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, that's why we have the largest collection of mid-century modern buildings in the United States in one place. And that people come from all over the world to appreciate our built environment. So it's obviously so important to preserve it. We're trying to make that point. And we're showing now the difference between Palm Springs and everywhere else, in that we were building things that looked like this, while other places were building the homes that we just showed. Now, obviously, there was modernism in other cities, but we're trying to make the point that Palm Springs was so much more vibrant and experimental. And we're so fortunate that that's true. Then we asked them to talk about some of the differences you see between the two, and in chat, they would put little comments in about how the windows are bigger on the left, or that there is a roof overhang, and that there's a pool, and they would start noticing all the differences and what those things are that are mid-century modern. So Palm Springs developed a unique type called desert modern. And we asked them to write down the characteristics of desert modern. And we basically simplified this to things we thought that they could remember, the key points to make it memorable so that they could design their house. Horizontal shapes are so important when it comes to desert modern. And all of these key things, durable, easy to find materials, materials that'll hold up in the desert climate, shielding from the sun, all of this. And then we go through each one of these and show examples. So they get a chance to see, examples of each and learn some terminology, and make it, a visual demonstration of the words, rather than just talking about it, let's see it. And the slide on the left was one of the favorite slides from Robert Imber's original presentation. And he would always say, now on the left, we have the rare giraffe dog. And the giraffe dog likes to put his head into the breeze blocks and come out the other side. But of course, we know this is actually two dogs checking each other out. And it demonstrates the beauty of breeze block, that it's actually open to the air and there's no, screen or anything, but it is secure to keep the two dogs from getting at each other. So shielding from the sun, so important. Open floor plans. Basically, everything we build today has an open floor plan, and that was invented in the mid-century. So then we kind of blow their minds here, and we talk about the Incredibles movie. And of course, they've all seen it. And they now realize the connection between the Incredibles, the architecture in there, and Palm Springs. And we tell them about the fact that the artists came to Palm Springs and toured all of our amazing buildings. And then they were inspired to design the graphics and the beautiful architecture in the Incredibles movie. And Mr. Incredible even flies across the screen, thanks to Mimi. And that's the end of part 2 with our little cartoon.
And now I'm going to talk about part 3, an introduction to Palm Springs architecture. Part 3, the desert modern architects. But we'd had another pop quiz before we started. Again, trying to make it simple for the kids to figure out, but a little bit interactive, and they put their answers in chat. They pretty much all got them right too, so they must have been listening. And now on to part 3, a few of the pioneers of desert modern architecture. And we were asked by the teacher, Becky Patterson, to narrow it down to just 3. Robert Imber, I think, had 6 or 7. It was very difficult to narrow it down to 3, but we chose Albert Frey, Donald Webster, and William Chrysler, and we asked the kids to write those 3 names down. And then we go through each one of them with pictures. We talk about what AIA means and what FAIA means. And for each one, we list some bullet points of the main highlights of their careers. I'll go back for a second. And then we go on to talk about some specific buildings that they designed. And this is the very first building that Frey designed in Palm Springs. This is his first house that he designed for himself, unfortunately demolished. and some other buildings by Frey. And
Talk about the Illuminae House coming here.
yeah, we talk about that and how exciting that's going to be. And Frey too, his wonderful house owned by the museum, and the kids sketch that too. And we talk about the big rock in the middle and all the details about the house while they're sketching. And Donald Wexler is our next guy. And here's some bullet points about Don. Very prolific in Palm Springs. And first we talk about the steel houses that Don designed. We show a model of the houses, a rendering, and talk a little bit about what prefab means. And we show a picture there of lowering a section of the house to the foundation. And here's a folded plate showing the front and the back. And our beautiful Palm Springs Airport that Don designed. And Don designed a lot of schools in the area, including one that maybe some of them went to, and parts of the Palm Springs High School also. And of course, the famous Dinah Shore House, which is, as you know, currently owned by Leonardo DiCaprio, who most of these kids have never heard of. And our third, William Chrysler. Some information about William Chrysler, and I think it's amazing that he designed over 2,500 homes in Palm Springs. Of course, he was very clever about how he did that, especially in Twin Palms Estates. This is a model, a picture of a model of a whole neighborhood of Twin Palms. And here's one of the homes in Twin Palms, and this is the floor plan. They all had the same floor plan. Sometimes it was turned 90 degrees, sometimes it wasn't, and then the roofs changed to make them all look different. But that's how he was able to design so many homes in Palm Springs. And then here we ask the kids to sketch one of the sketches that they see, or the butterfly house. And we talk some more about William Chrysler while they're sketching. And here we show one with a shed roof, front and back, and a butterfly, front and back. We talk about the clear story windows and the overhangs and all the desert modern characteristics. And then we talk a little bit about the Ocotillo Lodge designed by Chrysler. And we talk about the reason it was designed, because the Alexanders, who were the contractors, were Jewish, and there were not very many hotels where Jews could stay in that era in Palm Springs. So he wanted one where Jews could stay, or anybody could stay, and asked William Chrysler to design it. And there's a lovely rendering of inside the restaurant. Makes it look pretty fancy. And then we talk about preservation and the town and country center and how it got saved. And we wanted to show Paul R. Williams, one of the only Black architects working in that era. And that is the end of our three-part introduction to architecture. And in the lower talk box there, it says, by the way, PS ModCom offers scholarships to graduating seniors showing interest in architecture and design. Ask your counselor about it. So that's another big goal of Palm Springs Modern Committee. And now,
okay, I'm going to take a moment here to share my screen, and I'm just going to show you a few minutes, a short clip of David Webb's model building presentation, because it's so incredible. I thought you'd all really want to see this. And so this is recorded from his presentation coming live from Australia.
As neatly as we can onto the cardboard. Now, this is what I've done here. But as you can see, what I've done is I've joined together the back and the sides on both occasions. Now, when I put this together, I'll explain to you why I've done that. And when I've, you can see where I put in my windows and my doors and what have you. And what I've done when I've cut them out is I have used a Sharpie. So instead of cutting the windows out, I've actually marked them all in with a black Sharpie. Now, this is I think a simple and effective way of doing it. You can cut them out if you're handy with a knife, with a blade, which is kind of dangerous, with an X-Acto knife. You can cut them out and maybe put some plastic glazing inside. But this, for our purposes, I think is a very effective way to do it. All right, now I'm going to show you why I did the why I put them in why I did this all in one line. I'm just going to put this down here. I'm going to bend this down, and you can see this here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to get just, this is a regular little knife from the drawer, and I'm going to, where is the edge here? Lost it. There it is. I'm going to just score this like that. Don't go too far. Just get a crease in it so that you can then bend it like that, and it will sit, and you can place that on your model. You can add a little bit of glue, and it'll hold together. So let's do that. This is actually this is so we add glue. I'm using this kind of glue here. I think you guys may have had that, but any kind of water-based glue will do. And you can either just put a little glue on the edges of the model, or a little glue on the base. And then here we go. We've got started. We've got that side in, and because we've got it, we don't have to prop it up. It'll just the glue will hold it firm, and that's why we cut the little thing in half. Okay, and I'll put the other side in. All right. Now at this point, just a second. Let me get that in there. Now, at this point, or even before this point, sorry, that's fine. Good, yeah. You can think about what your house is made of. Now, you can. This is just the white of the cardboard, so you can paint that in different colors if you want to. Or what I've done is I have cut out these. This is just. In a magazine. It was a photograph of a stone wall, and I just cut the stone out, and then this is just paper, and I'm going to put this in here if I can get in there, and I'm going to just add this to my wall, and there we go. And so I've added a little bit of texture, and you can do something like that, or you can color it, or whatever you feel like you want to. Okay, now because we've got because we've done the window.
Okay, I just wanted you to see a little bit of that. It's a challenge to put those walls up and make them stand up. So David Webb is so ingenious. So now we're going to just spend the last part of our presentation showing you the actual student models and teacher models that were built. Some of these were on display at Pelago during Modernism Week in April, and this was also shown during the HSPB symposium. But we'll just go through and show you real quickly what the models turned out like for those of you who didn't get a chance to see them. And all the teachers made models, as we mentioned.
There's David's beautiful model. There's Mimi's not quite as beautiful.
I think it's pretty cool. I like the split roof.
This one's pretty cool. Joan and Gary made a beautiful A-frame.
Right, with the A-frame garage. That's our innovation there.
Of course, Gary would have to have a fancy garage, right? And Bob Webster, who's a master with the X-Acto knife. This is a shipping container house to go up into Joshua Tree. I love that tub. And Elizabeth Hamilton, who's on her committee, made a little beach house. The student teacher did a pretty incredible job. We're pretty excited that he got excited. And now the kids' models. Becky asked each of the kids to write what inspired them to make the house the way they did. And so there's a little statement from most of them. We didn't get the statement from all of them, but they did some pretty incredible things.
And remember, they're designing this after, basically about, 7 hours worth of instruction, from knowing absolutely nothing and not caring about architecture to creating these. So
and having to source all the materials from their home because they're trapped in their house most of the time. We think this kid's going to be an architect. Joan, tell us about this one.
Well, this one kind of shocked me when I first saw it, and I was a little bit dismayed. But then when he started to talk about it, he loves abandoned buildings. And I remembered a book that I had when I was growing up of photographs of abandoned buildings that intrigued me, how they were going back to nature and sort of melting and falling down. So he kind of did this more as a art piece, a statement, conceptual. And I think it's brilliant.
Love the round part of this house, a yogurt container or something.
Very Albert Frey.
Yes. Elvis is in the house.
Yeah, it's
nice breeze block. Wow. This one looks like it should be up in Joshua Tree. And the view on the right is an aerial view because I thought it was so interesting the way he or she created that privacy on the side of the house. This one had so many details. There's a fire pit with little logs in it and a hot tub and an elevated patio and very geometric. And how about this one with lighting? Nice use of materials. And this, I love the hot tub. He's got bubble wrap with blue paper under it. And then he put a whole bunch of clear hot glue to look like waves, ripples in the pool. Nice landscaping too. So we feel the program was successful. The kids did demonstrate Desert Modern and seemed to really get into building their models.
And we also wanted to let you know that the program is going to be given in more of the public schools and more of the middle schools. And this summer we get a chance to do it during summer school. We've been invited to give it the program for 6 schools. And in July, they'll be getting our program and building models. And really the mission of PS ModCom and the Education Committee and why we are all doing this is to ensure that we have a next generation, coming that appreciates modernism, that won't tear it down, that won't ruin it. And so we can preserve what we have here in Palm Springs. And we're having a blast doing it. I got to tell you, it's really rewarding. I never thought I would say that, but I never planned to be a teacher, but it's turning out to be a lot of fun.
I think there were 6 of us teachers online this morning. It was,
Yeah, exactly.
thank
So-
you.
Thanks, everybody, and we'd love to answer questions if you have any questions or
Well,
comments.
thank you so much, Joan and Mimi, for presenting this and all the hard work you do.
Wow.
It's an uphill struggle. There was a moment when I taught design at FITM, and these were people who were actually paying to go to design school, and they still weren't paying attention. And so I can imagine how difficult that was, but you created a curriculum that was engaging and wonderful. And hats off to you and PS ModCom for creating this and working on it, because that's a lot of work. But it's also the reward of seeing, you know, how you affected and touched and helped light a spark of creativity with the students. So hats off to you.
Yeah, wow.
So I see Deborah raising a hand over there. It looks like you have a question or comment.
No, I just want to say this is, you know, Richard and I put together the HSPB symposium and had your presentations that you and Mimi designed in the program. But honestly, I had no idea that the curriculum was as extensive and impressive as it is. I'm absolutely floored. And the first thing that I thought was, this has such potential for the future, not just in Palm Springs, but everywhere. And I wonder if George Smart has interviewed you for US Modernist Radio yet, because this seems like a program that could be picked up across the United States.
Well, we'd love to use the recording that we're making today to show people in other cities, because we could easily do it, and it would be so much fun to find local modernist organizations in each city and have them plug in the buildings that they want to show into the regional section of it. We could definitely see how that could work.
But it could
Well,
also
would you
be
mind if I
nationwide.
link you? Would you mind if I link you with George Smart to discuss that idea?
Oh, not at all. Please do. Please do.
right.
I know
All
him,
right.
but it's not always good coming from another direction. That'd be great.
I'll do that and
Okay.
get that going for you. Kudos to you. What a team. I mean, you know, Robert Ember started it, and you know, we've had scads of students through here over the years, but
Yeah.
what you've done is you've institutionalized a curriculum, and it's so impressive. I'm just hats off to you.
Yeah.
Also that, it seems that point about how the students don't have to, you know, they don't really have to pay attention. You really have to engage them. It sounded like that was quite a challenge, and you guys rose to the challenge. So wow, I'm impressed. It sounded like you very quickly had to figure out how to grab their attention and keep their attention. You did a great job. So
A
yeah.
little shout out to Dan Spencer for putting Joan together with Ellen Goodman. Thanks, Dan.
Yes, Dan was amazing. And Dan was an inspiration too, because he talked to us about how important sketching is. And then when Becky Patterson asked for sketching, we were thrilled to be able to incorporate it. And we think it's a key part of the program. And we've seen the sketches many times. We'll ask the students to just hold their sketches up. And some of them are just incredible. You wouldn't believe how much they get when they see, you know, what they're looking at, and they really get it because they're art students, so they are visual.
And we talk about sketching too. We show them sketches by famous architects and different types of sketches. And we cover a lot of stuff.
So it was great when I joined the education committee. Little did I know that I would be leading it at some point, but we had some people go off the committee, and I was able to recruit Mimi right away. And then we brought in Bob Webster, and he's fantastic because if you know his X-Acto knife work when he creates his facades, he's a really creative guy and fun. And then Greg is amazing. Thanks to Deborah for recommending Greg, who did our animation, and he's now observing the program so that he can learn to be a teacher Elizabeth Hamilton is learning to be a teacher. So we have, a group of us that are all spending time so that we can fan out, hopefully, and give the program. But Zoom is making it possible for us to reach more kids. And I hope that actually some of this sticks around, because we can do it better on Zoom. We definitely can, and we can do it from wherever we are.
Yeah.
And by the way, I love your earrings, Joan.
Yeah, this wonderful jeweler I know made them.
I just had to put a little plug in.
I was thinking when I put them on. Thank you, Mimi. I like those too.
Well, thank you. Now, do we have any other questions or comments from?
Dan Spencer.
Oh, Dan is raising his hand there.
So I'd like to comment on a couple of things. One is the safety of X-Acto knives. You really need to make sure that you teach the kids about safety relative to the knives. So many graduate students that I went, to school with ended up in the hospital right next door, but they ended up marrying the nurses. So that might be a good thing.
Do talk about that a little bit.
Yeah,
I thought that was really wonderful how David was talking about using just a regular kitchen knife, as opposed to you don't have to buy special materials in order to make your model. So that there's been so much thought in how this program goes together, and that's right.
One of the things that I do think about relative to Zoom is that what really was inspiring about Robert's work and about Palm Springs and Kurt and other people who are doing tours is the immediacy of the tour. And I hope that in the future that, and I think the foundation could be part of that program to do bus tours as part of the program. The foundation, just so you know, there are a number of us that moved from the Architecture and Design Council to the foundation. So Sydney Williams, Ellen Donaldson, Betty Rennig from the museum are all on the foundation board now. And so we're very much engaged in the community and want to make sure that what's happening is engaging. And the other piece of that has to do with scholarships. And so we're really involved in providing scholarships for all the kids moving on. And so we're doing a lot of work around those areas. So just so everyone in the community knows that we're really trying to engage all those aspects. And so one of the things that I was inspired about when Joan contacted me was, let's try to figure out how to engage this piece of the community. So I'm super glad that this has been moving forward and really an exciting time. But just keep that in mind that there's lots of opportunity out there in the community, and it's a really, really great time. So
Wonderful.
absolutely. And we did a bus tour in 2020, right before the pandemic. We did take the students out, and it was a great day.
And Robert did the tour.
Right. So we hope to do that next spring when we're doing the program again. I think by then we should be able to.
That was kind of crazy when the kids came through here, and there were so many kids and they were really, really animated. I think seeing it in person and being able to walk around was incredible for them, because many of them have not walked around mid-century architecture.
Yeah. No.
We came to Deborah and Richard's place.
Yeah.
So great. But so many other places as well, I think, right? I don't know all the other places. But
Oh, yeah, lots of places.
yeah.
We got to go in a steel house on the tour, which was exciting. We came to my house. We stopped at City Hall and, the visitor center. And
At Bonnie Rutan's house.
right. And Twin Palms, I think we went to Chris Menrad's house, I believe.
Anyway, we were all over town, driving all over town.
Yeah.
Was
So
it a double decker? Was it the double decker?
it wasn't, yeah,
Oh,
it
was
wasn't.
another bus. Okay.
We couldn't
Because I was
get,
gonna say the double decker, they could see, the roof lines and kind of down, you just see more angles and everything. That would be really cool too.
it would. So, we had asked Modernism Week if they could keep one bus for an extra week and we would pay for it. And
Well, Dan will get us the funds to do that.
yeah, they just couldn't be bothered at the time. So let's see if we can get to do it this year.
So Joan,
Yeah.
what is the ethnic mix of the students and boys versus girls?
Okay, I would say equal boys versus girls. And the ethnic mix is very ethnic, all different. It's not just Hispanic. There's
Different
Asian,
skin colors and
Indian. Yeah, there's a whole mix, and maybe white is maybe 20%, I would say, and
Okay.
80% is different fun ethnicities, all different.
So,
That's-
Joan,
yeah.
oh, finish what, Kim?
Yes, I'm done.
Oh, okay. So, Joan, I had a question. The house with the palms going through, looking like the City Hall, what house is that? I'm not familiar with that one. That was, when you were comparing and contrasting, there was a
Yeah, like
slide.
a ranch house and a modern
It's
house.
like was a Levittown house, and then there was this beautiful Palm Springs house with kind of a structure that had the palms going up through it in next to the pool.
Circle.
was it in Twin Palms?
No, it was a house I'm not familiar with, but it was a backyard. So
Okay. We'll have to think about what house that was.
yeah, it was on your slide. So I'll email you and see
Okay.
what that is.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was curious, Joan, just because there's been so many great documentaries of the architects and architecture of Palm Springs, if maybe there was a way to incorporate those maybe later in the program where people have gone through several of your series or whatever, or making a library available to the students or whatever, so they could, once they're really, you got their interest, and I think they'd really enjoy some of those films.
Yeah,
Just
we've
an idea.
thought about it. We've definitely thought about it and haven't figured out exactly how to incorporate it yet, but we will be doing that for sure.
Was the class an elective? Did the kids have to sign up for it? Because I'll tell you, the models are just incredible of what they made. And from what you said about them not showing their faces and things, I was worried you were going to say, oh, nobody made a model. And I wondered, did everybody make a model? I think bravo to you, because what an incredible job you did.
Yeah, they did.
I think-
It was not an elective. I mean, it was the
Wow.
class that they were assigned to.
I think all but one of the kids made a model that we saw. And this time around, today was our day to have breakout rooms, and it was looking pretty dismal. So I can't wait to see what happens this time.
Right. Usually at this point, they have no idea what they're going to do, and they just don't. Getting started is the hardest part.
We're on low battery now.
Tom,
Joan, I have a question.
well, Tom was raising his hand, and then Kevin, if we could.
So I found one of the best things about teaching was that the students often surprise you and you learn something from them, and it actually can change the way you think about things. Did you have that experience at all? The one student that had the abandoned house, I thought that was really interesting, that it didn't look like anything, and then when you talked about it, you suddenly saw something. Were there other experiences with other students that made you kind of see this whole subject a little bit differently, or your approach to it?
One of them, and I meant to point it out, had a monster truck standing up on a rock in his front yard, and that was very important to him.
Wow.
And his house was very macho, a guy house, and it was fun to see them express their personalities, which is exactly what we want them to do, and exactly what you should do if you're designing a house for yourself, is make it expressive of your personality. And they did for the most part, which was, you know, that was intuitive to them because we didn't really harp on that and they did it anyway.
Wow.
And just one
I
more
thought
part.
there was
Go ahead.
one girl who did a detail, just a tiny little detail, but the fact that she did it, I thought was incredible. She had a raised patio and she took a drinking straw and cut it the long way and then stuck that straw over the edge of the patio to give a lip to the edge of the patio. But I
Wow.
thought the fact that she thought of doing that little bit of detail was incredible.
Yeah.
Were there any students who were homeless or home insecure? Did that issue ever come up?
We don't know, but there could have been.
Yeah, we don't know.
Wow. No, I think Kevin was going to ask. something.
Yeah, thank you. John and Mimi, this is fantastic. I just think it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Part of the reason that was so, what I thought was really important was the act of actually, you know, doing the models. I think that grounding exercise made all the intellectual stuff make more sense. When I was in high school in Michigan, I went to a Frank Lloyd Wright a junior high, and I got in terrible trouble. I was a terrible student, always looking out the window, daydreaming, but I drew glass houses nonstop. So of course the teachers knew what I was doing, and I got in trouble for it. And I wish something like this had been around because this isn't introduced to kids, not anywhere. I mean, just so kudos, it's fabulous.
Wow, very cool. Now, I know we need to wrap it up, but I see Dan.
Dan's raising his hand.
I just wanted to follow up on a couple of notions about where the kids are. And the only reason I know some of this is my husband is a psychologist with the school district. And so the kids are really, especially during the last year and a half, it's a really challenging time, of course. And he's doing therapy with kids and they literally show him an eye. So I think that it's important for people to understand where these kids are, what their home life is like. There's other siblings in the space. They don't have a lot of privacy. So to make sure that we understand what the majority of the kids, there's 90% of the kids are under the poverty line. So there's multiple families in multiple households and it's a very challenging time. So just for those of us that kind of come from a place where we had our space, it doesn't exist for most of the kids. And so I think it's important that we realize that for them to produce what they produce is amazingly wonderful at this time. And so we just need to hold that in our minds around what we can expect from kids. And even the school district acknowledged recently that they're reducing the amount of credits the kids need to graduate. I mean, so you know that there's a lot of stress on just being able to kind of concentrate in your home and in your space. So I just wanted to bring that up because I think it's a really important piece of the puzzle. And kudos to Mimi and Joan for being able to get creativity out of challenging times. So that's what I would say.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that this program, Dan, will be like a bright spot for them in their day where, you know, it's something fun that can take them away from, you know, what they're dealing with at home. And, you know, it seems like, I'm sure we all had things in school that we'll never forget. You know, things that happened, things we did. You know, I had musical experiences that I'll never forget that influenced me when they brought in bands. And I just, you know, we just hope that this could be one of those experiences, especially to spark, you know, some talent and to go into the field.
Yeah.
When you think about that, these kids had to source all the materials themselves and had to work on it in a vacuum. It's just amazing. And if they had all been in the classroom, there would have been a lot of constant feedback back and forth between kids and between teachers, but this was all done at home. And I think it's just astounding. And given the demographics that Dan just described, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, kudos to both of you, and thank you for presenting and all the hard work that you're doing. So, and sharing with us. So we appreciate that. We will be back here next month on Zoom, subject to be determined. So stay tuned. But we shall be having our in-person salons hopefully in the next few months. So we appreciate everyone joining in, and we look forward to seeing you again, and actually looking forward to seeing you in person. So until next time, we'll see you then.
Yeah, thanks again.
All right.
Joan.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.